Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. My name is Lou Murray and I am the Programme Lead for the Health and Wellbeing Programme at NHS Employers. For those of you who may not be aware of who we are, the NHS Employers is the employers' organisation for the NHS in England. We support workforce leaders and represent employers and systems to develop a sustainable workforce and be the best employers that they can be. The Health and Wellbeing Programme that I work for is commissioned by the Department of Health and Social Care, and we support NHS health and wellbeing leads, or those responsible for leading that agenda in NHS healthcare provider organisations. We provide free tools, resources and guidance, and we also have a network of NHS health and wellbeing leads who we bring together regularly to connect and share the great work that they do and lessons learned. So if you are an NHS health and wellbeing lead and you're not a member of our network, I will pop a link to that into the chat box and we welcome you to that. We have been working virtually for the past 3 or so years, although it does feel like more, but I will just remind you of a few housekeeping items if that's okay before we head into the main event. Can I please ask if you could switch off your camera and audio at all times? This just helps us reduce any background noise. If you do have a question for any of the presenters when they're presenting, please pop it into the chat box function and I will be keeping an eye on those because there is a short space for Q&As at the end of each presentation. We also invite you to be part of the Twitter conversation, which you'll be able to access on Twitter at HPMA Awards. And again, I'll pop a link to that in the chat box for you. You may have seen, but this webinar is being recorded. So we invite you to sit back, relax and listen to the fantastic presentations that we've got today. And so for a few years now, we have sponsored this award and we are excited to be sponsoring the HPMA Award for Wellbeing again. At NHS Employers, and you guys may know, but we are so passionate about supporting employers to ensure that they themselves and their colleagues are supported to have the best experience in work. We've been doing lots of work in this space for many years and we're always keen to share good practice on what has and what hasn't worked when it comes to staff experience and health and wellbeing. So I encourage you, if you have time after this webinar, to pop over to our website and have a look. And if there's anything we can do to support you, please just get in touch. This HPMA Award for Wellbeing is a fantastic opportunity to shout out loud and be recognised about all the great work that is happening to make health and wellbeing a priority in the workplace. The HPMA received so many nominations for this award, so many entries, and so it's a real achievement to be shortlisted. So I just want to say well done, guys, for the finalists that are here today. With that being said, we know that submitting an entry for any award is not an easy task. So at NHS Employers, we've created a step-by-step guide to support you in hopefully crafting compelling award entries which maximise your chances of success. And again, I'll pop a link to that into the chat box for you. On to the main event now, and I would like to introduce our first of 3 presentations. So I'd like to introduce Brigitte Caviani and Bethany Winstanley, and they are from the South Yorkshire ICB and South Yorkshire Integrated Care System with their entry, which was Mission Menopause and Changing the Culture in South Yorkshire. And what was great about this entry was that Mission Menopause got leaders and workers talking without the stigma. They trained advocates, ran webinars, conferences, gained media coverage, you may or may not have seen that already, and system-wide accreditation, and engaged over 50,000 colleagues in this important topic, which we know is affecting workforce wellbeing and retention. So over to you guys.
So good afternoon, everyone. Just by way of introductions, my name is Brigitte Caviani. I'm the Head of Health and Wellbeing employed by the South Yorkshire Integrated Care Board. And with me today is Beth.
Hi everyone, I'm Beth Winstanley. I'm the Health and Wellbeing Programme Manager at South Yorkshire Integrated Care Board.
So as Lou said, our entry was called Mission Menopause, Changing the Culture in South Yorkshire. What we're going to do in the next 10-15 minutes is take you through our journey. It's not just mine and Beth's journey, and also we've got a retention lead within our team. It's not just our journey, it's the journey with all the advocates and everybody that's made this happen as well in the last 2 years. So as I move into the next slide, what I'd like you to do is start looking from the left-hand side of the slide. I'm going to take you through the journey. So I'm just moving to the next slide. So you can see from the first slide, I'm going to cover why, and Beth's going to cover and what, and Beth's going to cover how. And we've got 2 slides to take you through the journey. So on the left-hand side of the slide, where I'll start why we did this. Well, in South Yorkshire, we've got 72,000 workforce that work in health and social care. That includes a voluntary sector as well. What we do know is half of our workforce are of menopausal age. What we wanted to do is we wanted to show that rhetorics of integration can become a reality. It's one of our many health and wellbeing programs, but one that's actually ensured that we have worked across all sectors within South Yorkshire with this project. What is known, everybody knows, is that the average age for if you go through menopause is 51. 1 in 4 are reducing hours or leaving, and employers cannot afford to do that. In South Yorkshire, we're looking at losing 10,000 staff if we didn't do anything. So there was an urgent need to address this. We also wanted to set out to break the taboo. We wanted people to talk about menopause and be normalized conversations, not just at work, but at home as well. And also, this is one of our programs where it's inclusive to everybody at home. It includes our workforce and their families and friends as well. So when did it all start? A couple of months after I started my post in the summer of 21, 2 years ago, we ran our first webinar, Menopause, and we did a co-production group, and we brought them together from across different sectors to look at where we wanted to go with our menopause project. We brought together health and wellbeing, EDI, and retention leads to discuss this. What we agreed in the first year, that we would bring together health and social organizations to plan initiatives collectively, share ideas, and embed approaches. And that was the first year. And then we decided we'd take stock of things a year later and look at possibly at that point registering for the handpicked menopause-friendly accreditation across the system. So I'm going to hand you over to Beth now to go through how.
Thanks, Brigitte. So over the 2 years that we've been running this project, from when we started in 2021 to the present day, we've run a number of different activities and initiatives to raise awareness of the menopause and to start working towards that menopause-friendly culture within the organisations in South Yorkshire. So I'm just going to do a bit of a whistle-stop tour about what we've been up to. So if you focus on the bottom right here. So we trained a number of advocates. So advocates are people within our organisations that work to raise awareness and provide that support to the colleagues in the organisation, whether that's one-to-one support, delivering menopause cafes and sessions where they can come and talk about their experiences, or working with senior leaders on things such as developing policies and creating a good environment. So we started off by training 75 advocates through the handpicked course. We've now gone on to create our own bespoke South Yorkshire training course as a sustainable method for training more advocates over the next couple of years as well. So we now have an additional 40 menopause advocates and champions, and by March 2024 we're aiming for 250 across the system. And the advocates have been such an integral part of this project and really helped us to deliver it and start building that menopause friendly culture. So webinars, we've delivered a number of different webinars, both on raising awareness and delivering support. So we've worked with external companies, we've worked with Handpicked, we've worked with VivUp, who are our mental health hub provider, and we've worked with House of Wellbeing to deliver all these different types of webinars. In October 2022, we held our Meno Fest. So this was linking into World Menopause Day in October. So this was a one-day event on a Saturday, and we had over 600 people attending. So the day consisted of a number of stalls from local services that provide menopause support. We had a talk on different things such as sleep during the menopause and eating well during the menopause. We had chat and advice zones where people could come and connect with others and ask any questions that they have. And we had things such as massage treatments and complementary therapists. We got a lot of brilliant feedback from this day, and it was also open to partners and family members as well to come and learn about the menopause. So that was our first big event, and on the back of that we then started planning our menopause conference, which took place in March this year in line with International Women's Day. So this was aimed more at senior leaders and line managers. We had over 200 attending from across South Yorkshire. And we looked at things such as how to create a menopause policy, the importance of raising awareness of the menopause, and things like that, as we were really trying to tackle getting knowledge into our senior leaders there, as we know they're instrumental in delivering change. So again, that was a really successful large-scale event. We then started delivering menopause cafes. So these are a safe space for people to come together and talk about the experiences that they're having, any symptoms they're facing, challenges that they're facing. And we found a lot of good feedback there as well. People who've said that they felt really alone going through the menopause, suddenly realising that they're not alone. There's a lot of other people experiencing the same things, and that there's a lot of support out there for them now. So they've been quite emotional at times, and we've really enjoyed delivering those. We then started delivering our MENOU programme. So we delivered previously quite a lot of generic webinars looking at symptoms and how to support someone going through the menopause. But we really looked at our feedback here and what our staff were wanting. And we created a bespoke programme made up of 12 bite-sized sessions. And we honed in on certain topics that our staff were needing. So we've looked at menopause and the impact that it has on relationships, which is where we've looked at things such as loss of libido and things that aren't often spoken about. We've really honed in on those topics. And again, a lot of great feedback there. So we're going through the process of menopause accreditation with 15 of our organisations. So through this, we've supported them through the ICS offer, but we've also assisted them with delivering initiatives within their organisations as well. So just an example of some of the things that our organisations have been up to. They've put menopause policies in place. They've integrated menopause into other policies, such as their flexible working policies and their sickness and absence policies. They started offering free period products in their bathrooms, free fans for staff to use at work and to take home. They've created calm spaces for somebody to go to if they just need a little time out, and rainbow gardens as well to give them that outdoor bit of peace. And things such as lighter uniforms and reasonable adjustments have also started to take place as well. We've also raised awareness through media coverage. So we've been on the local radio and TV coverage such as BBC Look North, and we've regularly presented at NHS England events as well to raise awareness of what we're doing. So if I can just have the next slide, please, Brigitte. So again, if we can start from the left over here, I'll cover the outcomes and then Brigitte will carry on for the rest of our journey. So some of the big outcomes that we've had, number one is integrated working. So initially we brought all organisations together to think about how we were going to tackle mission menopause. And as we've mentioned, 15 have then joined us on the menopause accreditation journey. So we've seen real integration from our different organisations. We've got trusts, we've got primary care networks, we've got the voluntary sector and social care. We've really brought people together there. And we have a monthly advocate and champion meeting where we have over 100 people attending to share learning and take learning from each other. And we found that to be a really useful network. Staff engagement. So we know from the organisations that have signed up for the accreditation that they have 50,000 of our 72,000 staff members across South Yorkshire. So we know that we've reached at least 50,000 staff, but also more as I go into inclusion. We've opened up everything that we've done to partners and family members as well. So we know that menopause doesn't just affect those that are experiencing symptoms, it can affect those supporting those going through it as well. So everything has been opened up to partners, family members, line managers, colleagues. It's been an open offer to raise awareness of the menopause. We've also run specific sessions for men, as we know that sometimes they don't feel comfortable coming to more general sessions. So we've ran educational sessions, as well as a men's menopause cafe where they can come and talk about their experiences as well with a male facilitator. And we've had excellent representation across genders and ethnic groups at everything we've done. We've also got a session coming up for non-binary and transgender people, and a session looking at different cultures' experiences of menopause, as well as that can be entirely different. So just a quick little bit of feedback before I hand to Brigitte. So 100% of our staff have said that they now know more about the menopause, and 80% have made practical changes from the advice and support that has been offered to them, which is absolutely brilliant. And we've got 2 feedback quotes at the bottom here. The numbers are great feedback, but I find that the personal feedback is always really emotional. We've had people crying, saying that they now feel that they're not alone, that there's people going through the same things as them. So it's really that personal feedback that we've found useful about the real difference that we're making to people with the work that we've been doing. So I'll hand back to you, Brigitte.
Thank you, Beth. So I'm just going to cover the impact, which is really, really important. We know that we've changed workforce culture in South Yorkshire. Menopause talked about. We have reached patients and communities because we've got primary care colleagues who have been taking up their offers. And some of them have set up clinics for patients as well. As Beth said, with our comms, we've reached BBC Radio the day before the festival, and the TV BBC TV were at our conference as well and televised it that morning and evening as well. We've been in newspapers and we produce a Men News newsletter monthly. The turnover of women, we know that culture will take time, and we know that the turnover data will take time for us to see that, because we need more of our people to be using ESR to log this any absences. But the turnover of women have been stabilised in the last few years. As we could take you further down to value, it has been a great value. We were very lucky in 2021 to receive substantial amount of funding, and we allocated 33,400 for menopause. Half of that has been allocated more recently to the organisations that have registered for the accreditations, because we know there isn't much funding out there. We know they need to actually buy equipment or material when they're running their festivals and awareness sessions. So we've been giving them some of the funding. So I'm not going to go over the who. That summarizes a lot of the things what we said, but one of the very important things, we did have a dedicated comms team. The ICB helped us with our journey with this menopause mission, and we also had an evaluation partner from the very beginning of our journey. What now? What is the future? Well, we are on track to submit our accreditation documentation in 2 weeks' time. So hopefully by early September, we'll know if we've achieved that across the system. We are currently piloting a menopause support line. It's a 24/7 support line, and it's unique. It's not just for those who are going through the symptoms and need extra support, but also their partners can actually ring this menopause line and get the support. So we're about a third way through the pilot, and so far the feedback has been good. And we've got like 60 licenses to pilot with VivUp. We will continue to do activities, but we'll encourage more activities to be done more within the organisation for sustainability. We want to spread across South Yorkshire to all the organisations that are doing something but didn't join us with the accreditation process. And we'll do that by training more menopause advocates as champions, as Beth said. I'm just going to end by just saying that people ask me, what is the secret to our success? Well, I would say the passion of our initial 75 advocates and the more recent advocates that join us. Without them, we wouldn't have been able to achieve all of this. Myself, Beth, and Tim and the team have been coordinating the whole process. We've been arranging things, we've been providing the support, but without them, we couldn't. And the second thing to our success, I would say, is our senior leadership. We had to have sign off by every other CEO or HR director. Our own CEO and Chief People Officer at the ICB champion menopause, and our CEOs added it into his blog and talks about it. And we've presented nationally. So that's the first thing I'd say, what is the key to our success? And the second thing, lastly, is just saying how have we shared our learning? Well, we've been very lucky to be able to have access to other menopause sessions that have been arranged by our neighbouring ICBs, Humber and North Yorkshire ICB and Derbyshire ICB have both been opening their sessions to us, and we've been doing the same. Nationally, we've been supporting other ICB leads with their menopause-friendly accreditation. So we have already, and we've presented at many national, regional and local events, and we do attend a lot of the events. Every day is a different day and things come up. Just this week, we've been scoping a sleep clinic for menopause. So that's sort of, every day we'd come up with something different. So I'm going to end on that, Lou.
Thank you, Brigitte and Beth. No, that's fantastic. And I think when I was sort of looking at the application, it was so clear to see like the passion and the system leadership which really demonstrated, that was really demonstrated, and you could see it was like just so tangible and so wide reaching. So well done. There's not been lots of questions. I think you've stunned everyone into silence. But I suppose for me, I think I just want to ask, given that we are coming into these sort of new ways of working, or this system working, and it's been a great initiative that you guys have done collectively, are you able to share any of the sort of challenges or lessons learned for any of the sort of lesser established systems that want to come together on a piece of work?
Beth, are you okay if I answer that one? Yeah. So I have to say we've not come across a lot of challenges, because initially when we started, we had got the funding. A lot of the other ICBs who are more recently been contacting me, their biggest challenge was two things. One was funding, and secondly, reaching out to voluntary sector organizations and other organizations as well. So I wouldn't say we've had many challenges, because from the start of the other projects we were linked to. The other thing that I would say that it's been really good is that our Mission Menopause, as well as some of our other programs, have been included in our ICB workforce strategy, one of the key things as well. And I think some of the other ICBs are telling us that's a challenge to get it high up on the agenda when, as you said, there's a lot going on at the moment, but menopause is linked to the national retention impact actions that needs to happen. So we work very closely with that as well. And we've got a lot of support through the EDI leads as well. And that really helps as well. So not much challenges. I think going forward, we've tried to do sustainability. So when there's funding, I don't think you need a lot of funding. You saw how much funding we had, which is not a lot in the scheme of things for a system. A lot can be done, and people can go on a trainer course and then deliver the training if they are trainers themselves.
Thanks, Brigitte. We have had one question from Laura Hilton, and I know you said you haven't had much challenge, which is fantastic, but I suppose could you name what was your biggest challenge and how you did overcome it?
Our biggest challenge, I would say, I don't know if Beth, you can think about this, is our workforce at the ICB. I've had a change of different team. So it started off with Abby Foster, who was in Beth's role. So we were working together on that. And then obviously we lost our admin, and then we had to recruit a new admin, and then Beth came in. And so this transition of having people leading it, and at some point I was on my own doing this. And so that's the biggest thing, is changing different staff. But everybody had a passion to this, and Beth certainly is run with this. And we've got people within the advocates who are different age groups. Some of them are very young, some are going through the menopause at the moment, and some have gone through it as well. It's a difficult one, because it's been quite a successful project with challenges. So that's probably the only one I can think of, is changing the workforce within my team who are leading on it.
Thanks, Brigitte and Beth. It was so lovely to read and so lovely to see, and I wish you all the best of luck in September.
Thank you.
Thank you. So our next presentation this afternoon, guys, is from Becky Rowley, Katie Smith and Jill Pickersgill from Doncaster and Bassetlaw Teaching Hospitals, NHS Foundation Trust, and their health and wellbeing package for their colleagues. So over the last 5 to 10 years, DBTH wellbeing team, they've made a real concerted effort to bolster the wellbeing offer for colleagues, catalysed by the effects of the pandemic that's had on their staff morale. This resulted in the Trust's best wellbeing package to date, including initiatives such as complementary therapies, visits from Thunder the therapy dog, staff physiotherapy, staff smear clinics, know your numbers, which is the blood pressure checks, and wellbeing trolleys, and many, many more. So I can't wait to hear all about it, guys. Over to you.
Right, well, hi everyone, my name's Jill Pickersgill. I work at Doncaster and Bassetlaw Teaching Hospitals in the Health and Wellbeing team. And with me today are Katie and Becky from the team, if you want to say hi, guys.
Hi, I'm Becky.
Hi, I'm Katie.
I just thought we would start, or just give you a bit of background about the Trust. So we are a large teaching hospital. We employ 6,800 staff. We have 3 main hospital sites, which are split across 2 regions, that's South Yorkshire and Nottinghamshire, and we have a number of community locations as well. I've just put on the screen a couple of our posters. So the poster on the left just details some of the offers we have for staff, and on the right is our health and wellbeing calendar. So we have a different topic every month. This month is fitness and Wimbledon, and later on in the presentation, Katie will share with you what we're doing around tennis. Can you still see the screen? My screen's gone a bit funny, sorry. Can you still see the slide? Yeah. So our approach to health and wellbeing is a core pillar to our recently launched people strategy, and our staff survey findings have played a pivotal role in shaping the strategy. So a key focus of the document is to look after our people, and key commitments are looking out for the physical and emotional wellbeing of our colleagues, and that all aligns with our We Care values. We strive to be an employer of choice, and we all know that a more motivated and happier workforce with the right skills and tools to do the jobs positively impact on patient care and patient safety. So the Be Well at Work Award, this is a South Yorkshire initiative, so it's led by all the councils across South Yorkshire, and it's an award that looks at support available to staff in large organisations. So we had to submit evidence across 13 categories to show what we were doing to support staff. That included support around drugs and alcohol, support around smoking, physical activity. So we had to provide evidence on each of the categories, and then once we'd completed all this work, colleagues were invited to focus groups that were run by the councils, and there was judges there that spoke to staff and asked them questions around what it was like to work at DBTH, and some of the questions they asked as well to staff was what the thoughts were on flexible working at the Trust, carers leave, etc. So in May we received confirmation we'd received gold, and it's something that the three of us and the organisation as a whole are really proud of. So the NHS staff survey last year, 2022, we achieved, I believe, one of the highest response rates in the country. So 65.2% of our colleagues, that's approximately 4,252 colleagues, I think, took part in the survey. 67% of them, so higher than pre-pandemic levels, reported that the organisation took a positive interest in health and wellbeing, and that surpassed the national average of 57%. In May of this year, we started work with the Evidence Centre, because we want to find out if what we're doing for colleagues is what they want to see. So we've launched our own staff survey to find out what everyone thinks around health and wellbeing support. So this was launched 4 weeks ago with questions such as, is the Trust doing enough to support staff wellbeing? Is the support available appropriate for our diverse workforce? If staff have used the service, they've been asked what impact it's had on their wellbeing, and they've also asked what support they'd like to see from us. So as of today, 1,700 staff have completed the survey. We're going to close the survey at the end of this month, so I'm hoping that we'll go surpass the 2,000 mark, and that will be at least a third of colleagues have taken part on the survey. I'm going to finish there, but just before I hand over to Becky, the photo that I've included in this slide, I just wanted to share with you. So it was taken last week at an afternoon tea, and it was for staff who have completed 40+ years service. So 70 staff attended the afternoon tea, and I'm told that the combined service for everyone that attended added up to more than 3,000 years. So I just wanted to include that photo because I just really like it. So I'm going to pass over to you, Becky.
Thank you, Jill. Hi, everyone. So we have our employee assistance provider, VivUp, and through this, our colleagues can access payroll pay, lifestyle savings, and help and support. So some of the things that we know are quite popular are the Cycle to Work scheme, the online shopping and supermarket savings, and also the counselling. We also have counselling on site every Friday, every week, and all colleagues can drop into this or book a pre-booked appointment. So we also have Reiki. It's complementary therapy meaning universal energy. Over the last year, we've had over 1,258 sessions performed by our Reiki master, Darren. He has 20 appointments per week across all 3 sites. We get staff in that might need support to stay in work, even to get back to work if they've been off. And it's probably the most popular service that we have. We also have a cancellation group for the Reiki appointments, which has got over 200 members. We've had some of the feedback we've had has been incredible. We've had numerous feedback saying that it's supported staff to stay in work, return to work, and support them at work. And people have also said that it's an asset to the trust. We also have complementary therapies. So we're working with a local cancer charity, and all colleagues are entitled to 2 free sessions. These can include massage, reflexology, foot massage, and warm wax hand massage. And there has been 16 sessions a week over 12 months. We also have the staff physiotherapy service. So this supports all colleagues with musculoskeletal conditions such as lower back pain, neck pain, joint pain, and difficulty with walking and moving. So this is Thunder, our therapy husky. We had a social media campaign last year, which is where we realised that our trust are a trust of animal lovers. So on the back of this, we invited therapy huskies into DBTH. And so far he's had 46 visits. These visits range from clinical and non-clinical areas. Staff just need to email us or give us a call, and we put them on the waiting list, and then we allocate where they're going to go. Again, this is another really popular thing that we do. Some of the feedback, people have said that he's made the day. They can't imagine anything that makes a better recovery for patients, and that it should be done everywhere. Again, he's probably one of the more popular things that we do, and he's actually visiting today as well. So we have Wellbeing Wednesdays. These started in September last year, and so far we've had over 1,170 attendees with 44 sessions. So these range from menopause, mindfulness, and mental health to sleep, resilience, DIY, and healthy eating. The picture on the top right is from a laughter size session that we held. We also work with local partners, including councils, Yorkshire Water, Money Helper, and HSBC. We always ask what our colleagues want from the sessions. A good example of this is when we were asked to hold a session on endometriosis. So we reached out to a trust consultant who covered this subject for us. We've also been asked for topics such as celiac disease, sobriety, and deaf awareness sessions, all of which we have completed. And we also ask for feedback after all the sessions just to make sure we are covering what is wanted. One of the most popular sessions we had was TV's Dr. Dawn Harper. She did a session on menopause, and we had over 120 colleagues live on the call. The calls run from 12:30 till 1 p.m, so colleagues can watch during the in the break, or while they're eating the lunch, and they're invited to ask questions if they want to. They can have the cameras on or off, so it's very inclusive and quite an informal session. The session with Dr. Dawn Harper, some of the feedback we've had is that for some people it's given them the lives back, and the recording of each session is put onto our Hive page as well, and this one has had over 300 watches so far. We also had a session around self-care and burnout. This was from Married at First Sight lead expert Mel Schilling. We had over 175 colleagues live on the call that day. Very well attended, a lot of questions, and it's just a case of reaching out and asking different people for different things. The feedback we've had is that the sessions are really good, they pique their interest in certain topics. and just thanking us for putting these on. These are our wellbeing trolleys. In the last year, we've done 36 of these. We do a lot of themed trolleys, so these can be seasonal, such as Christmas, Halloween, and then we also cover nutrition and hydration, Pancake Day, the coronation. We've done a lot of the trolleys with the execs. We've done a smear awareness trolley with the smear clinic lead. Staff counsellors have also been on the trolleys with us so that staff can come and speak to them. We've also done them with the professional nurse advocates, so they just come along, raise awareness of what they do. We've also worked with the Trust Freedom Speak Up Guardian and the EDI team, all of which is just covering all the wonderful work that they do. Thank you. I'll hand over to Katie.
Thank you, Becky. Pre-COVID, we had a service called TLC. This was originally set up to support teams after traumatic events had happened, like a debrief. When COVID hit, we decided to take that service and adapt it, and we started to make regular phone calls to staff who were off sick. Some of those people were off due to COVID, some had been off for long periods due to other reasons. We've now changed that service and redeveloped it again now that we've come through COVID, so that staff can reach out to us instead of us cold calling. And with those calls, we offer support, signposting, just a listening ear. In the early days, it could just be that we're that one person that they've made contact with. So it's been a really fabulous service. We've had really good feedback, and it's just a way of showing people that they're not a number. We do notice when people aren't here and they're struggling. So it's been really well received. Part of our offer is to look at how we can engage our colleagues to increase their physical activity. So we have things like Dr. Bike, who will come on site and service and repair bikes for free. They also offer a free bike loan service. We have yoga classes on site, and that also ties into the Wellbeing Wednesdays that Becky spoke about. We have a consultant who's going to be delivering some sessions for us soon. With a charity some of you may have heard of called Climbing Out, we were able to set up some walk and talk days. We've recently been working with our colleagues at Doncaster Council, and they've rejuvenated some tennis courts across Doncaster, one being local to our main site in Doncaster. We started to work with them to advertise tennis sessions, so anybody can go along and get some free coaching, really, if they want to start the tennis. Two of our initiatives that we set up in the last year, because we recognise that our staff are time poor and better at looking after other people rather than themselves, we decided to bring some services to them. The first service was Know Your Numbers, Wellbeing in Action. So going out across all sites into team areas to make it more accessible so people weren't coming to us. We'll go along, spend a few hours, a full day, and we can check people's blood pressures, their weight, signpost them to services, or again, be that listening ear that can then provide some support to them and get them what they need. With this service, we've actually loaned out 25 blood pressure machines. That was from halfway through setting up this programme. We've referred just over 60 people to their GP and caught a number of very high blood pressures that people have started to come back to us. We've got some lovely testimonies saying that if they hadn't have come to us just on the off chance, on a whim, that they probably wouldn't be with us now, or they would be, but their health would be seriously deteriorated. So that's been such a fantastic initiative that we've been able to offer. Similar with the smear clinics, we know that people don't go to appointments because they can't get time around the working hours. So with our lead colposcopist, we set up staff spear clinics. These are at our 3 main sites, so Doncaster, Montague and Bassetlaw. It doesn't matter where people live, as long as they're eligible for their smear, they can come and see Sally, book an appointment, and she offers these clinics 3 days a month. She covers mornings, evenings, weekends to try and accommodate everybody. She's very adaptable. If somebody can't make it in those times, she will find time to get them in for their smear. And we've, as Becky mentioned, we've been out with her on some of the wellbeing trolleys, raising awareness around cervical screening and its importance, and trying to find out what the barriers are for this. One of our newest initiatives, on the back of an article that was brought to our attention about a doctor in another trust who might be working at one end of the hospital to the next in the same day, and on occasions has found themselves caught short, if you like, and their period has come along and they've had nothing because the bag's not with them, it's in a locker, you know, half an hour away, or they're going into surgery, etc. So we took this on board and managed to secure some funding to pilot a project. So the areas that you can see on the post there, so we've got 9 areas where we've left a basket with products in for staff to use if they are caught short. And if this is successful, we will roll it out across all 3 sites. And so far, the feedback's been really good for people that have needed it. As Brigitte mentioned earlier, we are one of her sites that are part of the menopause awareness. So through the training that was offered, we have 13 trained menopause advocates. We'll have a few more going through the training in September, and in that cohort, we actually have our first male colleague who's going to be training, which is going to be fantastic for hope to getting the message out there that this isn't a taboo subject anymore, and it's about everybody, those around the people going through the menopause, as well as the people going through it. Part of this project, we've set up drop-in sessions. We have a section in our library. In our team, we even have books that we can loan out if anybody asks. We've set up a menopause support WhatsApp group. We've got packs set up for our wards department champions that can be taken out across site. We feel that this is really important, as we have around 1,471 employees between the ages of 45 and 55. And although we recognise that menopause can hit people at any age, that being the core group, we know it's a really important subject for retaining our staff and making them feel cared about. So working with our EDI colleagues, there are a number of support groups that are run across the trust. You can see them there on the post. You don't need me to read them out for you. But these are all well attended, particularly the Carers Network, which is the newest one. We know that sometimes people struggle to come to work because of other outside commitments. So it's important that we understand how we can support those people to be in work. So to help us deliver our message and support us in the campaigns when we're out and about, we have a number of health and wellbeing champions across the trust. So our champions are people who work in all different areas at all different levels, and they help us by they have wellbeing boards in their areas, so they have all the posters, all the offer. They have a knowledge about VivUp, so if anybody comes to them for information, they know where to signpost them to, or obviously they can come back to us. Max, who you can see in the poster there, he's been part of setting up challenges and getting his team engaged and actually taking note of looking after their wellbeing. And there's just some of our photos from some of the things we've done. We've had Andy's Man Club on site. We're doing something with Luke Ambler next week, who is the founder of Andy's Man Club. I think the alpacas was from one of our team building days. So all our teams get a chance to go out off site and work on their team relationships, because that's really important. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Katie. Before I hand over to you, Lou, I was just going to add as well that social media plays a big part in everything that we do. I know not a lot of trusts have wellbeing social media, but we have Twitter, we have Facebook, and we set up Instagram last month. We've got over 3,000 staff on our wellbeing Facebook page, and this is where we get our messages out and where we also receive feedback from our colleagues. So I just wanted to add that in. That is a big part of what we do in the team.
Thanks, Jill, Katie and Becky. Wow, so much happening. I think what I really liked with your submission as well was the real active listening elements when it comes to supporting staff and the importance that their opinions have in the work that you do, and particularly like use of your staff networks. It was just really encouraging to see. Ashley has popped in a question, but I just wanted to ask, you mentioned, before I come on to Ashley's, you mentioned the evidence centre, and I suppose I'd like to ask, how often is that survey run, and is it sort of your own version of a health needs analysis, or is that something done as well?
Yeah, so this is the first time we've done it, Lou.
Right.
It was just something in our minds that actually we're doing so much for staff, but is it what they want, and is it making an impact on them? So I mentioned this to Brigitte, who we've been talking to earlier, and Brigitte supported me with this, and we got in touch with the Evidence Centre. So between us, we've devised a survey to ask staff lots of questions, and from that, we'll look at what it means to staff, the health and wellbeing, and what they want to see from us as a team. And also, funding's tight for everybody, and it'll be our way when our funding runs out, because we've just received funding for 3 years. When that comes up and is due for renewal, we can support our bids for more funding with the evidence that we get from the survey.
Yeah, definitely, because it's key, isn't it? And it's having that robust evaluation to be able to present to your senior colleagues as well. I won't have all the questions because there is some coming through. So Ashley's said that the National Staff Survey response is 65%, and yours is really impressive. So do you have any hints and tips on how you achieve that fantastic percentage score?
Well, I'm not being biased, but I think we've got one of the best comms teams. Our comms team are absolutely amazing. And we also had some incentives. So staff could win vouchers if they completed the staff survey, but it really is down to our comms team and how they pushed it out. I would say it was mainly the comms teams, but obviously the initiatives help.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose the key trolleys that you were going around with, another opportunity to get staff to complete the survey. Thank you. We had a question from Bethan, and she's just wondering how you've built such an impressive audience on Facebook. They've been on social media in the trust for a couple of years, and they've struggled to gain that larger reach. So I suppose any tips for that?
Becky joined the team in maybe February last year, and she's our social media queen. So I'll hand over to Becky and she'll tell you what she did.
Thanks, Jill. I would say it's been a lot of perseverance, just kind of pushing everything that we do. And we've done competitions in the past as well. So we've kind of said, join our Facebook page, you'll be entered into a prize draw, that kind of thing. And I think it's just about making the content, I think, that you're sharing engaging. So all three of us do the Facebook page, and Jill does Twitter. We're just in the process of building Instagram, which is taking a little bit longer. But I think our Facebook following, I think it was something 200 and something, if I'm right, Jill. Yeah. In February last year, and we're around 3,000 now. So I would say just keep pushing, keep persevering, spread the word. And even we've even had little cards made with the details of our pages, so people can go on, and we're also involved in the inductions as well for new starters, so we mention it in those, just so that they're aware of everything that's going on.
If anybody wants to follow us on Twitter, if you just search wellbeing at DBTH.
Thanks, Jill, and you can pop that in the chat box if you want people to follow. And Becky, we've got our own sort of closed Facebook group for health and wellbeing leads, and that's been, I think, 6-7 years, if not longer. So building up that audience, well done on getting those numbers so quickly, because like you say, it's the time and effort into it to make it a sustainable resource for people. We've got one more question from Laura. So since the project commenced, has there been any improvement in any key workforce KPIs, for example, absence rate, long-term and short-term absence rates, etc.?
So that's another reason why we've done the survey as well, to find out the impact. So at the moment, I can't say, so all three of us are fairly new to the team. So I've been in health and wellbeing maybe 2.5 years, Becky just over a year, and Katie just a little bit longer. So it's a fairly new team. I think there may be just have been one person doing it before COVID, and obviously COVID hit, and you know, it was all about looking after our staff. So the staff survey, that's why we've done that, not the staff survey, sorry, our health and wellbeing survey, just to see what impact it's making. So at the moment, I can't say that it's making a lot of impact on our sickness levels, but from the comments we receive, so every single thing that we do, whether it's Thunder, whether it's the trolleys, whether it's Reiki, we get feedback, we evaluate it, so everybody's to complete feedback forms. And the messages that we get from staff and on Facebook to say how valued they feel because these offers are here, that's a big part of what we do. But hopefully this health and wellbeing survey will help us look at what we need to do to improve on sickness, etc. But it's all about, you know, retention as well and attracting new staff.
Exactly, Jill, and it's just like you say, sometimes the numbers don't quantify the impact that you have and the value that you get in that story of, you know, value and feedback, and you know, that's worth its weight in gold, isn't it? But I'll be really excited to see the development of your survey. Yeah,
we'll let you know.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. And now for the last presentation of the session, we have Rebecca Salisbury, David Ledger and Jane Evans, and they're from Northamptonshire Healthcare Foundation Trust with their Embracing Neurodiversity in Supporting Employee Wellbeing. And with their increasing numbers at NHFT, colleagues sharing that they live with a long-term health condition, a year-long project was undertaken to encourage their staff to report that they won't have a long-term condition, but to ensure that they feel valued for their contributions and to provide wellbeing support. So I'll hand over to you guys so we can hear more. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lou, and thanks for the introduction. So just by way of introduction, my name's Becky Salisbury. I'm Deputy Director of OD and HR Transformation, and I'm joined by David. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Afternoon, everyone. I'm David Ledger, Senior HR Business Partner.
And also by Jane. Are you there, Jane?
Yes, I'm here, Becky.
Brilliant.
I'm Jane Evans. I chair the staff network for people with a disability, neurodiversity, or a long-term mental health or physical health condition.
Brilliant. And as Lou mentioned, we're from Northamptonshire Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust. Just to give a little bit of background, we are a community and mental health trust. We have in the region of 5,000 substantive employees and a further 1,000 on our staff bank. Our submission is around embracing neurodiversity in supporting employee wellbeing, and really focused kind of on our leadership behaviour of being authentic. And over the last year or so, we've introduced really a range of different initiatives to encourage our staff to feel safe in reporting that they've got a long-term condition, to ensure that they feel valued in the contribution that they bring to the workplace, and also to ensure that they've got the right wellbeing support to enable them to be their best in the workplace. So we want to start the presentation today just talking a little bit about kind of some of the drivers for our change and for the ambition that we wanted to fulfil in delivering this piece of work. And what you'll see on screen is our trust's kind of roadmap. It summarises our values, our behaviours, enablers, our vision and our trust strategy. And what you can see on that is actually people are at the centre and are intrinsic to the work that we do. So in terms of some of our drivers for change in this project, what we could see is an increase in the number of staff who are reporting through the staff survey that they live with a long-term condition. That increased over a 3-year period from around 19% up to about 25%. So 25% of our workforce were living with long-term conditions. What we were also hearing through the network and through Jane was an increase in staff reporting that they were sort of seeking support for their wellbeing, and in particular in relation to neurodiversity. What we also knew, and I don't think we're probably alone in this, was that our ESR reporting was relatively low, at around 5%, people reporting that they had a disability or long-term condition. I think for us that really demonstrated that the work that we wanted to do would really need to build trust. A huge disparity between the reporting through ESR and the reporting through the staff survey, and clearly that was a gap that we wanted to bridge. So I think in kind of looking at those drivers and shaping our ambition, really it was about generating a culture of inclusivity, and really focused kind of around 4 themes. So enhanced voice of staff with long-term conditions, looking at support that was available to staff, so more around kind of the tools, the toolkit and the practical things that we could do to support staff. It was absolutely about raising awareness and knowledge, and ultimately about delivering improvements for our staff. So I'm just going to hand over to David now, who's going to talk you through what we did.
Thanks, Becky. So 3 main strands to the work that we did in this really important area. The first was around gaining senior leadership commitment, second around utilising our staff network, and those 2 pillars fed into our third, which was developing the tools for support and wellbeing. So the first, in terms of senior leadership commitment, we moved to put our HR director as a board sponsor for our disability and long-term health conditions staff network. I think that gave the network real impetus, gave it a real clear voice at our boardroom, and gives some real clear direction for the next steps. And back in October 22, we ran an authentic leadership conference, so linked to our leadership value of authenticity. We put a conference specifically around it at an external venue. Each of the breakout rooms as part of that conference session, you had an opportunity to hear lived experience, explore scenarios, have conversations for managers, leaders, colleagues to all get a better understanding of the impact in situations where authentic leadership doesn't happen. And our disability network at that session, we ran a whole session on neurodiversity at work. In April last year, we looked at our diversity calendar and we added in Disability History Month for the first time, which runs across November into December. And our theme that ran through the whole theme was around neurodiversity, raising awareness. Again, the senior leadership sponsorship was key, open sessions by our HR director. We spent time really looking at mental health impacts as a mental health trust and really examining how neurodiversity links potentially with that and what wellbeing support we should put in place. The final piece under senior leadership commitment was a reverse mentoring program for all our executive board members. So each executive board member went through it. It was a program known as A Day in My Life. We took mentors from our staff network, and 50% of which were neurodiverse. So it gave real good insight into barriers and how those could be overcome. The second part of what we did was utilising our staff network, and we provided our network lead with 7.5 hours time per week, and we provided a £1,000 budget to the network also. We engage with colleagues across the trust in a number of different ways. We use WhatsApp groups, email updates. We run a really popular fortnightly wellbeing drop-in session, so colleagues can come along, have really open conversations, get some help and support. And then we do use quarterly network meetings also, all of which kind of share information, generate ideas. We have a real rich history of co-production in the Trust, and we co-produce our workforce disability equality standard with our action plans, with our exec team and our staff networks. That helps us identify areas of improvement and create action plans. So those 2 kind of foundation stones really in place allowed us to develop the pieces that we're sharing with you today. And so we really focused on how we could equip line managers to support our colleagues and really effectively support wellbeing. So it's mainly around increasing confidence, increasing knowledge. And so the first part was we redesigned our reasonable adjustments guide with lots of practical examples and insight from various different health conditions about what, in practical terms, managers could do for support. And hand in hand with that, we did a visual guide for ordering a DSE, display screen equipment. So that's a 16-page document that's basically a catalogue of everything that colleagues can order. So things from different coloured keyboards to bigger monitors to sit-stand desks to penguin mice, all that kind of stuff. Because what we found managers were feeling back was it's quite difficult to know where to start. So having that type of visual guide really give them a good kind of right foot to step off. We did some specific guides for conditions. So we've got a dyslexia guide with lots of hints and tips, and we did an autism toolkit. Everything we do, we build around our health passport, which is a conversation starter for colleagues to discuss how their health impacts on their work and, really importantly, what adjustments they need in place. We launched our initiatives across a range of different communication channels across the Trust. This included things like our Managers Need to Know, which is a monthly leaders bulletin. We used our intranet. We used weekly communications to our staff, went to our senior leadership team, monthly meetings, used our staff network. So ultimately, the three things that were key to what we did was get the right senior leadership support, really invest in our staff network, and then do some practical helps, tips and tools for our line managers. I'll pass over to Jane now to talk through the outcomes.
Hello, everybody. Well, as chair of the network, I've sort of been on the front line talking to the members. One thing that we're actually very clear about in the organisation is that being neurodiverse is not a disability. In actual fact, it's got a lot of benefits to it. So we know that the different way of thinking for people that are neurodiverse is so important to us as an organisation and so important in the health service. By talking to people and having lots of different presentations, we've run 2 long sessions that have been an hour long, where we've had external speakers talking about neurodiversity, and specifically the second session about dyslexia, and not just the difficulties with reading and writing, which everybody thinks of with dyslexia, but also some of the way people's thoughts are organised. And we encourage people, when they go to access to work, to make sure that they ask for awareness training as part of their help package, if they can get funding. But we know that we've got, as you can see on the screen, increases in colleagues feeling that they're declaring it now. They feel more confident to declare it. We have 2 of our execs have dyslexia, and that one of them, our chief nurse, Julie, she's very open about her dyslexia and how it affects her. That helps to give people confidence to declare it. And also, it's made the managers more aware, because Julie's a very influential person. We're very pleased with the number of applications from people that are declaring they've got a disability, and neurodiversity specifically. And we've got our Freedom to Speak Up guardian, Beth. She's also neurodiverse. She has a diagnosis of ADHD, which is extremely important, again, because she will talk freely about her ADHD, because she's a very prominent person in the organisation. And again, it gives people with ADHD confidence to come forward. Some of the things that have been said to me from members of staff that have either joined our organisation or have seen changes within the organisation have been heart-lifting, since we've tried to increase the knowledge and understanding of neurodiversity. We had one young lady, Olivia, who works in our training department. She remembers having to crawl under her desk in her previous job, weeping because she felt overstimulated and her colleagues didn't understand. She is now extremely happy at work. She is non-verbal a lot of days because she's on the autistic spectrum disorder. That's one of the ways it affects her. And her colleagues understand this. So if there is on the team meeting in the morning updates, if she's in one of her non-verbal days, they will hold the meeting by MS Teams, so she can type in the chat so she doesn't have to talk. And that is a really good example of how team members can support somebody in their team that's neurodiverse. And the manager of that service, Robert, he is very, very strong on the being authentic. And he said to me, he wants every single person in his team to bring their authentic person to work, so they can be truly the person they are and they don't have to mask. We're very, very lucky as well that we have a lady who's an OT, who's also on the autistic spectrum. And Abby's colleagues understand that if she's got her noise cancelling headphones on when she's in her in the office typing her notes up, that they don't touch her on the shoulder, because she has the energy it takes her to mask and stop her from hitting somebody who touches her is draining. So they know to go and stand in front of her and wave their hand rather than actually cause her distress. And she's a very, very successful therapist for occupational therapy in the eating disorders. So we're very lucky to have Abby as well. So that's just a few of the examples of people that are working in our trust. I'm very, very pleased that people on ESR are now declaring that they have a long-term disability or a long-term health condition or are neurodiverse, because ESR will only use the word disability. So we're helping people understand that that word disability encompasses everything. And that's really important so that we can see where we are in our organisation and we can use it as a benchmark. I personally believe, like a lot of forward-looking companies, that we should employ more people that think differently, because thinking differently will help the organisation go from strength to strength.
Thanks, Jane. And I think what we can see is, in terms of measuring our impact, certainly and absolutely the power of individual stories, only a few of which Jane has had the opportunity to share today, but combining that with some of our recruitment metrics in terms of applications and appointments up, increases in our staff survey metrics, and through ESR reporting, kind of give us that broad picture of the impact that this piece of work has had. We would just want to share with you a little bit about some of the challenges and also some secrets to success. David, do you want to just talk a little bit about overcoming challenges?
Yes, thank you. So we have a rich history of co-production in the organisation, and I think we kind of stepped on to this work around neurodiversity thinking we would really draw heavily on that. But I think ultimately it did lead to one of the kind of challenges we needed to overcome. So initially we had HR and the Disability Long-Term Health Conditions Staff Network League. We put together some work on autism with a view to developing an autism toolkit, but we did on reflection do that in isolation. So when it was shared with the staff network for feedback, it came back with a considerable amount of red pen all over it, and it recognised that we obviously missed gaps and we really needed a much more collaborative approach. So we started again. We brought in expertise from our autism lead within the trust. We utilised a local autism champions network across our county council. We used our staff network leads and our EDI lead also. And by utilising a more kind of collaborative approach, we put a draft together. And from that, we also had additional bits of work added by the Autism Champions Network. They really wanted a positive focus around the autism toolkit. So they created a word cloud of what it felt to be like autistic, and it gave the document real sense of feeling. And when we asked our colleagues in Disability and Long-Term Health Conditions Network to kind of sign the document off, they felt it was much more relevant, felt it was much more real. There's a saying in disability equality of nothing about us without us. And it's a good example that how we approached it didn't get it right in the first instance, but by involving colleagues at the right time in the right place, we managed to fix it in the end.
And I think just building on that, I think in essence is really our kind of biggest secret to our success. That listening, the voice of those with lived experience and co-production has kind of been one of our biggest success factors. I think for us going forward, we recognise that nothing can remain static. As the number of colleagues who report or live with a long-term condition is increasing, equally our offer must evolve and grow too. And I think with continued leadership support, our next steps are already branching out into other areas that we now need to focus our attention on, as well as applying our learning to sort of future projects and sharing the successes that we've had through this one. Thank you.
Thank you, David, Jane and Rebecca. That was really interesting. And again, I think you stunned people into silence as well. And I think what I really liked about it was the senior board commitment to the initiatives that you're wanting to put out there. I thought that was really great to see, because we know the importance that that has when you're wanting to roll out anything when it comes to supporting staff health and wellbeing and their experience in the workplace. And I think it was really key what you said at the beginning about the trust element and the psychological safety that people have when coming to work and presenting their whole selves at work and feeling like they are going to be supported with the things that they need. I have made some notes for questions because I love asking questions. I think for me that it was really good that you have got that senior leader commitment, but we know for many organisations this is one of their biggest battles and challenges, and so I'd love to really hear some of the things that you did to really get you on board with this. I know you mentioned a couple of your senior leaders have got lived experience themselves, which I suppose was really good for them to be able to shout about, but I suppose for me it's if you've got people on the call today who think, well, I have no chance of doing that. Is there any sort of glimmer of hope or nugget you could share with them?
Yeah, certainly from my perspective, I think often it's about understanding the gap. You know, what's the data telling us right at the very start? And where I sort of highlighted some of the drivers for change, I think some of that's really powerful. And I think when senior leaders sort of see the gap, understand some of the drivers and kind of almost the disparity that we sort of started out with, I think that has great power. I think within our organisation we have very buoyant networks. They do have a voice, and actually hearing stories, whatever those stories might be telling us, are of equal power to some of the stats. So I think in combination, that's been really powerful to help our senior leadership sort of understand and sort of get on board with the change that we were looking to make. David, Jane, I don't know if you wanted to come in on that at all.
I think I definitely echo the storytelling. I think that's been such a critical part. I think we all think we're having the same experience until something really jolts us and thinks, actually, there's a whole host of experiences out here. And I think doing that safely with the staff network, and I stress safely because you've got to make sure you give people space and you respect that story and treat them with the kind of respect and due diligence they need. But that has been a massive part of what we've been able to achieve.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the mentors that you were talking about and how they link with the senior leaders to sort of really bring the pages of the words that you would have in feedback to life, really, which was really encouraging. And I think what I really liked was about the equipping line managers as well, because we know that they're the key to any successful health and wellbeing initiative or intervention, and we know how often they are sort of really pressured in their roles with regards to expectancies of them as well. So it was really lovely to see that sort of managers need to know that. Was it the monthly newsletter that you shared? And I think it's that, I think you said it, David, like, where do they begin? Like, where do they even start? And I suppose it's something that we say at NHS Employers, like, we don't expect line managers to be experts in everything, but if they can be experts in signposting, then that's a fantastic first step. So thank you, guys. It's been so lovely to hear from all the finalists today. I just want to say thank you so much to all the presenters who have joined us to share the great work that you have done, and I'm sure you are continuing to do in your organisations. And I wish you all the luck for the awards ceremony in September. Thank you again to you guys, our lovely audience, for taking the time to be with us and ask some really interesting questions. You do still have time to book your place at the HPMA Awards ceremony on the 19th of September in Leeds, and I think you can find more details about that on the HPMA website. Take care, everyone, and thanks again.